Alright guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. Alright, I want to do a video on abortion since abortion is back in the news. The states of Alabama, Georgia, and I believe Ohio are all passing new laws restricting abortion to 6 weeks, heartbeat bills, and stuff like that. And I want to go over how we got here, how this thing got so big, where it started, and how this group called Planned Parenthood got its hands around black people's necks. I want to start with Margaret Sanger. A lot of people don't know a lot about her. It's a lot on the internet from her. You can easily look her up. Margaret Higgins Sanger was born Margaret Lewis Higgins, also known as Margaret Sanger Slee. Was an American birth control activist, sex educator, writer, and nurse. Sanger popularized the term birth control, opened the first birth control clinic in the United States, and established organizations that evolved into Planned Parenthood, Federation of America. This was the person who gave us Planned Parenthood. Now, when you go through her Wikipedia, this is her Wikipedia page, and when you go through her Wikipedia, it doesn't say a lot of the statements that she made. She made a lot of racist statements towards blacks because most of the stuff was directed at blacks. And so when you go through a Wikipedia page, a lot of that stuff has been excised out. But here's a few of her statements. I'll just give you a couple. Here's on blacks, immigrants, and indigents. She called us human weeds, reckless breeders, spawning, human beings who never should have been born. She talks about the extermination of blacks. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, she said. I mean, she said a lot of bad stuff. But anyway, I just wanted to give you an overview of where all this started. Please do your research on Margaret Sanger. She has a lot to say and a lot to teach us. Next person I want to go to is Faye Walton. Faye Walton was the first black woman that headed Planned Parenthood. Most people don't know about this, especially most young people. She was the head of Planned Parenthood from 1971 to 1992, I believe. She was born Alice Faye Walton, the first African American, the youngest president ever elected to Planned Parenthood, Federation of America, and first woman since Margaret Sanger to hold that position. Until then, white men was running Planned Parenthood. In fact, Bill Gates' father, Bill Gates, the billionaire's father, was once the head of Planned Parenthood. But anyway, I'm going to go on to show you some statements, a little bit more about Faye Walton. Faye Walton was born in St. Louis, Missouri, July 8, 1943. She was raised by fundamentalist parents who strongly value community service. This background helped shape her decision to enter the nursing profession and later to become actively involved in family planning. Walton worked her way through Ohio State University Nursing School, and after graduating in 1962, she taught maternity nursing for 2 years in Dayton, Ohio. It was there she encountered and treated women who had life-threatening abortions. In 1996, Walton enrolled in Columbia University, where she earned a master's degree in maternal and infant health care and certificate in nurse midwifery. During her internship at a Harlem hospital, she became keenly aware of the great need for birth control and life-saving abortions. She also became a Planned Parenthood volunteer in Planned Parenthood volunteer. In 1971, Walton was named executive director of Planned Parenthood in Dayton. She exhibited remarkable leadership, tripling the number of clients and more than doubling the budget. If you haven't heard her talk, she's a very intelligent woman. She was a beautiful lady. She was very attractive and very charismatic. And she did the most work in building Planned Parenthood up to where it is. Walton married jazz musician Franklin Gordon in 1972 and gave birth to a daughter, Felicia, in 1975. Dramatically affirming the motto, every child a wanted child. Walton returned to work after short maternity leave and brought her daughter with her to office every day. In 1978, Walton was named president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, making a departure from a succession of white middle-aged male executives. As president, she was in charge of women's health system that served millions in the United States, as well as the international program operating in some 120 countries. For her dedication and success in educating the public at home and abroad on birth control, family planning, and repercussions of population growth, Walton was named Humanist of the Year by American Humanist Association in 1986. This is what the article is about. This is thehumanist.com. In her acceptance speech, Walton said she was honored to have one more thing in common with a sister nurse and first leader of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, who received the award in 1957. This is Faye Walton. Look her up. This was the woman who grew Planned Parenthood to where it is now. Now, another thing that's very important in the black community, and that is, when you're dealing with black women, you have to always consider the church, because the church is where the black woman receives her instructions. The black woman will listen to the preacher more than she listen to her own husband. And so if the preacher is against something, normally the black woman would be against it too. And so this is why it's important to go to Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson, who was, I guess, probably the head black preacher in the country at the time, or now, even now. But Jesse Jackson was once anti-abortion, as was the black church. The whole black church was anti-abortion at one time. And so how did we get to the point where the black church is either neutral on the subject or support it altogether? And if you want to know where this started, you have to go to Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson was very much anti-abortion. Here's a great article, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Abortion Flip-Flop Timeline. Here's a brother documented every word, almost every time he spoke about abortion. In 1970, at the head of the People's United to Save Humanity, a Chicago-based civil rights group, Jesse Jackson acknowledged that he personally abhorred abortion because he felt that the only the intercession of his grandmother had prevented his mother from aborting him. He brought a pronounced religious opposition to abortion, telling a group of students, "I'm conceding that unless we put human life first, second only to God in our lives, we're becoming a Sodom and Gomorrah. We have an obligation to take sex and life as far more sacred event than we do now." Yeah. In 1971, Jesse Jackson, birth control as national policy will simply marshal sophisticated methods to remove and control when not removed the weak, the poor, quite likely the black and other minorities whose relative increase in populations threatens the white caste in this nation. Contraceptives will become a form of drug warfare against the helpless in this nation. Those who we could not get rid of in the rice paddies of Vietnam, we now propose to exterminate. If necessary, eliminate, if possible. In the OB wards and the gynecology clinics of our urban hospitals, the direct extension of the old man in the house rule against public aid recipients can be detected in the drive for birth control. Here's Jesse, 1971. Abortion is genocide. Anything growing is living. If you've got the thrill to set the baby in motion, you don't have the will to protect it. You're dishonest. You try to avoid reproducing sickness. You try to avoid reproducing deformities. But you don't try to stop reproducing and procreating human life at its best. For who knows the cure from cancer won't come out of some mind of a black child? Here it is. Yep. Dick Gregory, Jesse Jackson, hit pro-abortion. Two prominent black activists told a gathering of youthful youthful right to life leaders in New York that the nation's pro-abortion mentality undermines the value and dignity of every human life, that killing babies is symbiotic of a civilization and culture which operates without sacred absolutes. Stick right. Jesse Jackson even joined Billy Graham's wife, okay, in fighting abortion. Jesse Jackson joined Billy Graham's wife for a Constitution amendment banning abortion. Jackson and Mrs. Graham were among the signers issued by the Christian Action Council, which read in part, "A deep concern for defenseless human life, including the unborn as well as the handicapped, is a constant element of Christian moral teachings from the days of apostles onwards. It is not unlimited to any particular Christian confession or domination." This is what your leaders are supposed to sound like. Jesse was a religious leader, and he sounded like one. Okay? In 1977, endorsing the Hyde Amendment, Jesse wrote, "I must oppose the use of federal funds for public policy of killing infants. You don't stop reproducing or procreating life at its best. For who knows what, at the cure, cancer won't come out of the mind of some black child." He just read that. I just read that. Here it is. I'll leave a link to this article so you guys can look this up yourself. Okay? In 1978, Jesse Jackson, National Director of Operation Push in Chicago, was among the scheduled speakers for the 5th Annual March for Life, an anti-abortion rally on the Capitol steps. But Miss Nellie Gray said he was ill and unable to attend. So he was actively an anti-abortion leader. Okay? Now what happened? Here's what happened. He ran for president. Jesse Jackson ran for president. And if you want to be a president of the United States, at least at that time, you had to be pro-abortion. In 1984, during the bid for president, Jackson was asked, what level of aid should the government provide for abortion? Answer, I choose to put my emphasis on sex education, self-discipline before the fact. I would never encourage abortion except under medically extenuating circumstances. On the other hand, I do support freedom of choice. He later supports birth control. In 1984, Jesse Jackson supports Medicaid funding for abortions for low-income women. Now he's totally pro-abortion. By 1988, Jesse Jackson is the only remaining U.S. president candidate to openly support abortion as a woman's choice. Sold out. In 1988, as a presidential candidate, 1984, and 1988, Jackson has consistently said that women must have a right to choose whether to have an abortion. It is an issue. In issues brief, Jackson advocates government Medicaid funding of abortion for poor people. But in the 1970s and the early 80s, Jackson, who was a Baptist minister, was taking a much different approach. He flip-flopped on us. That's what this whole article is about. That's how the black church has been pretty much neutered on this subject, because Jesse was the head black leader, is the head black leader. And he set the tone for everybody else. So that's how we got here. I just wanted to give you a good brief overview on where the black community stands, how Planned Parenthood got so powerful, and why you're seeing the black leaders supporting this thing even to this day. In fact, black leaders are fighting the hardest to protect this abortion industry. Now, I want to close this out with just a little bit of Faye Walton, because most people have never heard her or seen her talk. But I'm going to show you just a little clip of Faye Walton talking so we get a good understanding of who she was.
We've had 34 years now of reproductive rights solidly recognized by the court. Not just Roe v. Wade in recognizing abortion rights, but in 1965, the court establish a recognition for the practice of contraception between married couples. This is not a right that has had a long history in American constitutional law. So this has been a struggle that's going on, and unfortunately for 30 years has gone on. Maybe there's a certain degree of battle weariness. What I fear, and I really feel very sad about it, is that women are going to start suffering, and that is when there will be a wake-up, that people will wake up, that this is real, that yes, we've cut off funding for low-income women, yes, we've put restrictions on teenage girls. Now we're saying that if a woman's health is in jeopardy, a doctor cannot perform a certain procedure to terminate an undesired pregnancy, even if her health is in jeopardy. That was a major step backward for women. Why we are not engaged in a massive rebellion against this is really rather remarkable to me. But I think it is also emblematic of where we are in terms of the complacency born out of the years of acceptance of a right and believing that it will always be there.